I think the real genesis of Dry Wet Season was in about 75, 76, when prior to the Soweto uprising, there was a whole series of deaths and detention. And a few of my friends who were lawyers provided me with the court documentation of some of those trials. And especially after a man called Mohapi died in East London, King Williamstown. It was about a year before Biko. I got deeply involved in that, and through Donald and Wendy Woods, I managed to get a lot of documentation there. And that really set me off. But that was stopped by Biko's death. I just started writing, and I felt, in the circumstances, sitting there writing, working on a more or less fictitious story while a real man was arrested in the same town where I lived and killed very close to that. It was almost obscene to go on with literature after that, and it took almost a year before I could go back to it.
If we make a contrast with the novel and with the film, the ending of the novel, of course, is different. I'm sorry, well, in the novel and film,
I must point out that I had nothing to do with the film script whatsoever. So I only discovered the changed end on the day it was first shown to me. But I was persuaded by the director, for whom I have a very, very high regard, that there were sound reasons for doing that. Because especially by the time the film was made, unlike at the time the novel was made, there had been quite a number of books, articles, and films and so on the South African situation, in which every single time the protagonist who fights against apartheid gets killed or becomes a victim of the struggle. And she felt, and perhaps rightly, that this might gradually convey the message that, you know, don't rock the boat, because you can only end up a victim. So she wanted to show that at least in some respects it was possible to beat the system. I don't altogether agree with the specific choice she made. I think it was a bit too glib to create the impression that by killing a cop you can save a problem, solve a problem like that. It goes much deeper than that. But I think the move was in the right direction.
Okay. I feel that the anti-apartheid struggle, that literature, what part do they play?
I think, as you said, certainly there were many fewer films than books. And they are of a much more recent period, starting really with things like Cry Freedom. But because of the great mass appeal of films, I think they reached a larger and perhaps a slightly different kind of audience, in that they could galvanize into an awareness, quite a large audience at the same time. People reading a book read it one at a time. And even though that experience can be communicated and is communicated to quite a number of other people afterwards, it is different from the sort of impact one undergoes when you share a visual experience with a whole lot of other people. So I certainly think that in spite of the flaws in a number of these films, especially in something like Cry Freedom, the impact has been such that it galvanized into a new kind of awareness, a large audience all over the world.